When the Christmas season approaches, a joyful and warm atmosphere often pervades everywhere. But underneath that brilliant shell, there are creepy mysteries and unanswered stories waiting. Strange disappearances, mysterious deaths, and puzzling phenomena have turned the holiday season into a dark picture where unexplained things often happen. Let's explore 9 creepy mysteries of the Christmas season, where twinkling lights only hide the ghosts of the past. 1. The disappearance of Patty Vaughan. On Christmas Day 1996, a cold wind swept through the town of Lavernia, Texas, bringing with it an untold horror. Vaughan, a 32-year-old woman with eyes full of joy and hope, walked out of her house with the bustle of the holiday season. But no one expected that this would be the last moment she appeared before the world. That afternoon, as the twinkling Christmas lights reflected on the white snow, the girl disappeared from the lives of her loved ones, never to return. Vaughan's car was found 15 miles from her house, parked quietly on the side of the road as a faint sign of her sudden death. But what's even more strange is her mysterious disappearance. Even though the police tried to search everywhere, from deserted roads to dark forests, her body still seemed to be sucked into nothingness, leaving no trace. Vaughan's house, once filled with the warmth of the holiday season, is now a haunted place. Bright and cold red bloodstains were left in every corner, like traces of an unpredictable fight. Bloodstains littered the walls and floors like footprints of brutality and suffering. Meanwhile, 3 children were playing in the house, unaware of their mother's strange disappearance. They continued to frolic in the festive atmosphere, their laughter echoing among the strange sounds of the house. It wasn't until many hours later, as the Christmas lights began to fade, that they realized Vaughan's absence, and the terrifying reality of his inexplicable departure slowly rose in their minds. The quiet of Christmas Eve was broken by an inexplicable nightmare. Vaughan is no longer present, and the question of her fate still hangs in the air, like a haunting that cannot be dispelled. 2. Mystery Santa and the disappearance of a young boy. In 2001, in the cold of a Denver winter, the Merlin family was attending a small Christmas party, where the festive atmosphere mixed with the sounds of laughter and Christmas music. To create an additional surprise for the children, an anonymous Santa Claus was hired to attend the party. With his crimson suit and long white beard, Santa Claus appears as a classic image of the holiday season, but his eyes hold something unspeakable. During the party, Santa Claus quietly moved from child to child, giving small gifts and creating smiles on children's faces. However, when Santa reached out his hand to invite little Merlin to sit on his lap, the peace of the party suddenly became heavy. The guests saw him whispering something into Merlin's ear, a quiet and mysterious whisper, impossible to hear from afar. When Santa completed his task and began to say goodbye, the atmosphere seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. He left the party, but his disappearance did not attract much attention, as if he had naturally blended into the night. Just a few minutes after Santa left, little Merlin suddenly disappeared from the fire station where the party was taking place. People, at first thinking he was just lost or looking for someone, quickly realized that his disappearance was not out of the ordinary. They searched everywhere, from the rooms inside the fire station to the surrounding streets, but couldn't find any trace of Merlin. The boy seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving no trace or clue. Just like Merlin, the anonymous Santa Claus has mysteriously disappeared. No one saw him leave the party, and no one knew where he went. The house where the party took place has now become a haunted place, and the absence of both of these strange characters has left a big question mark in the hearts of the attendees. The story of the disappearance of Merlin and Santa Claus became part of the mysterious stories mentioned in the area, leaving an inexplicable feeling of insecurity and anxiety. 3. The murder of Tracy Mertens. On December 23rd, in the chilly winter air, Tracy Mertens, with her boyfriend Joey Kavanagh and their 2 young children, moved from Birmingham to Rochdale, looking for a fresh start in an unfamiliar city. But the hope of a new beginning is quickly crushed by an unimaginable tragedy. While everyone was cleaning and putting the last of the items into the new house, Tracy went back to her old apartment to pick up the few things that were left. The atmosphere in the old apartment was heavy with the emptiness of the walls, with no traces of happy days. But just as Tracy started working, 2 masked men appeared, barging into the apartment. The scene became chaotic when they kidnapped Tracy, pushed her out of the apartment, and dragged her into a black van, their faces cold and cruel. The car rolled, taking Tracy from the city of Rochdale to the town of Eton, a remote and desolate place in the darkness of winter. Upon arriving, they stopped in front of an ancient church, where the steps were covered with a thin layer of snow and the air was cold. Tracy was thrown out of the car, staggering on the steps, while the 2 men remained silent, gloomy shadows preparing their brutal plan. They lured Tracy closer to a pile of dry firewood stacked next to the church. As the fire began to burn, Tracy kept turning to look at the faces of those who had done this to her, her eyes shining with fear and pain. She struggled to speak, repeatedly repeating the questions the men had asked her. "Where is Joey? Where is Joey?" Those questions echoed in the dark night, like a desperate scream in the cold space. The flames began to engulf her entire body, gradually overwhelming Tracy's remaining life. In her final minutes, she managed to survive long enough to tell her story, even as her answers became increasingly vague and garbled. The kidnappers remained silent, never answering, simply burning all their remaining evidence, leaving Tracy to fight to death in the flames. Joey, upon learning the painful truth, completely collapsed. He couldn't understand why his family was dragged into such a tragedy. Even though the kidnappers left no other traces, Joey felt like there was something invisible surrounding him, dark enemies lurking in the mysterious shadows, and a sense of guilt. Error cannot be erased from what happened. The unanswered questions, along with the pain of loss, left a deep mark on his mind, like an obsession that could not be left. 4. The murder of Rhonda Hinson. On December 22, 1981, the Christmas atmosphere in the local area was filled with warmth and joy, but pain and mystery lurked in the shadows of a dark night. Rhonda Hinson, a 19-year-old girl full of vitality and dream, attended a company Christmas celebration where laughter and music echoed in the air. She left the party with the joy of the holiday season lingering in her heart, unaware that death was waiting for her. As Rhonda drove home, her car became the scene of a terrible crime. That night, a bullet went through the trunk of the car, continued through the driver's seat, and finally hit her heart. The shock of the bullet extinguished her life instantly, and her car rolled for a while before stopping in the darkness of the deserted roads. The strangest and creepiest thing about Rhonda's murder is the appearance of a mysterious man. Witnesses described a man standing next to her car around the time she was shot, but no one knew who he was or what led to his presence there. The image of the mysterious man with unreadable eyes and a faint shadow became part of an unsolvable puzzle. Rhonda's parents, haunted by their daughter's mysterious death, have provided one more terrifying detail. They revealed that Rhonda had been acting strangely and unusually just days before the murder. During the 1960s and 70s, the young girl showed inexplicable signs as if she were under the influence of some invisible threat. Her bizarre actions and state before her death became part of a mysterious picture that the police were unable to piece together. The police, after investigation and search, could not provide an explanation for this horrific murder. The traces and clues leading to the mysterious man, along with the motive for the attack, remain forever a mystery. Rhonda Hinson fell victim to an inexplicable death, leaving a lingering void and doubt in the hearts of those who loved her, and an indelible haunting in the land of stories. Horrifying and mysterious. 5. The Warminster Thing. The city of Warminster, located peacefully in England, is famous not only for the beauty of its ancient streets and historical buildings, but also for paranormal and scary stories about unexplained phenomena. Over the years, residents of the city have reported many UFO sightings, but what makes the events here even scarier are the strange sounds that no one has been able to explain before. One of the most mysterious and haunting cases related to this sound phenomenon is that of Marjorie, a woman living in this city. On a cold winter evening, after attending a Christmas service at church, Marjorie was on her way home. She walked in the faint light of the streetlights, her mind still settled with the solemn atmosphere of the ceremony. But when Marjorie walks through a deserted street, everything suddenly changes. A strange sound, like invisible vibrations, began to sound around her. The sound was unlike anything she had ever heard before. It carries a dark brutality, like invisible fingers squeezing the space and quiet of the night. Marjorie felt an indescribable sharp pain, and it was as if the paralysis of her body was happening inexorably. She fell to the ground, and in a state of panic and pain, it felt like an invisible force was holding her captive, pinning her body to the ground. Strange sounds kept ringing, creating an unbearable feeling of tension and fear. Marjorie's experiences don't stop there. When taken to the hospital, doctors couldn't find any physical traces to explain her condition. Marjorie was not only physically paralyzed, but also mentally, with an inexorable obsession with strange sounds that had invaded her mind. She never fully recovered from that event. The nightmares and images of that sound still haunt her, like an indelible mark on her life. Marjorie's story has become part of the legend of mysterious sounds in Warminster, a city where the unexplained continue to lurk in the shadows. Strange sounds not only cause fear but also leave a deep mark in the minds of those who encounter them, serving as a reminder of the inexplicable things that exist in seemingly peaceful places. 6. The disappearance of Nicole Betterson. Jard Better and Susan Klinkle, a couple living in Dearborn, Michigan, have built a peaceful life with their young daughter, Nicole. When Nicole was just 2 years old, their lives were disrupted by a terrible car accident that ended in Susan's death. This painful loss left a huge void in the lives of Jard and his little daughter. With an irreplaceable loss, Jard decided to remarry a woman named Barbara. Although Jard's new love seems to be the light at the end of the tunnel, this transition is not received easily. After getting married, they decided to move away from Dearborn without leaving any trace of where they came from. They did not notify Jard's family or his late wife's family of their new address. This silence has raised many questions and worries in the hearts of the remaining loved ones. Since that time, Nicole has completely disappeared. No one has seen her again, and there is no trace of her whereabouts. Jard and Barbara seem to have merged into the darkness of the night, and nothing is known about their lives. All search efforts were in vain, as if they had been sucked into an invisible space. 20 years later, a big shock happened. Jard and Barbara were found to have committed suicide in an unimaginable state. The room where they took their own lives was found in a state of chaos, with traces of despair and indescribable pain. The only thing left from them was a small piece of paper placed in the middle of the room, with the words thin and shaky, "We are sorry for everything we have done." This line is an irrevocable apology, a vague admission of what has happened over the past 20 years. The question of Nicole's fate and the reason behind their silence still hangs in the air, leaving a haunting mystery in the minds of the living and the generations to come. 7. Arkansas Santa Claus gift. In a small, hidden town in Arkansas, at Christmas time, a mysterious man dressed as Santa Claus and walked around town carrying gifts he left for about 6 people. The cold of winter cannot reduce the mystery of the gifts that Santa Claus brings. 5 of these gifts were later discovered to be old toys, almost worthless, just forgotten fragments of time. However, the strangest thing was the gift for Jamie, a freshman, and her husband. They receive a mysterious package, no toys or gifts, just a stack of old papers. In this pile of papers, mostly copies of old newspapers from the 80s and 90s, there is almost nothing noteworthy. But among the papers, one note stood out, written in large, clear letters, with a brief but haunting message: "I'm sorry for whatever happened to your son." 2 years later, Santa's message became a cruel reality when Jamie's 12-year-old son, Chris, was hit by a car as he was crossing the street on his bicycle. The serious accident left Chris seriously injured, and the car that caused the accident did not stop to help, nor has it been identified to this day. The silence of the car driver and the mystery surrounding the incident have raised an inexplicable obsession. The big question remains: was the mysterious man in the Santa Claus costume involved in that terrible accident? If that note was just a coincidence, then the coincidence was too scary to believe. Santa's actions and the mysterious gift left a deep mark on the lives of Jamie and her family, not only because of the pain of loss, but also because of the inexplicable mystery involved. The events that happened afterward. With the mysterious man and the car that caused the accident still unidentified, the story of Santa Claus and the haunting note continues to be part of a dark legend in that small town, a mystery unanswerable and a fear that never fades from the memories of those affected. 8. The murder of Latricia White. During the Christmas season of 1994, in the sleepy small town of Lockhart, Texas, 38-year-old Latricia White, her boyfriend, Lee Wacker Hagen, and Lee's 9-year-old son, Chance Lee, prepared for the holiday season. With the cozy atmosphere of the Christmas season spreading everywhere, Latricia and Lee decided to bring Chance back to his mother in time to celebrate Christmas with her. However, not long after, they decided to keep the boy for a few more days, not knowing that this change would lead to an unimaginable tragedy. In the following days, while the surrounding houses were filled with the lights and laughter of the holiday season, Latricia and Lee's peace was quickly replaced by eerie silence. One morning, while the neighbors were still preparing for the Christmas party, the police received a report of a mysterious death. Latricia was found dead in their apartment, lying cold among the gifts and holiday decorations. The scene in the apartment was terrifying. Latricia lay amidst the chaos of the room, with traces of attack and violence in an unimaginable way. There are no clear signs of a perpetrator, but all signs point to Lee Wacker Hagen, who disappeared with his son shortly after Latricia's death. The disappearance of Lee and Chance shortly after Latricia's death led police to suspect Lee might be the perpetrator. There are clues that Lee left town with his son, but there aren't any concrete traces to confirm it. Lee has become a ghost, with no trace or news of him left. Extensive searches and investigations proved fruitless, and Lee seemingly faded into thin air, leaving behind unanswered questions and hauntings for the rest. With Lee's mysterious disappearance and Latricia's death, the case becomes a macabre mystery, causing the entire town and investigation agencies to live in worry and insecurity. Every Christmas, the story of Latricia White and the disappearance of Lee Wacker Hagen is recalled as part of a dark legend, with questions that will never be answered and a lingering fear that cannot delete. 9. The author of 'Twas the Night Before. Christmas, with its rich and varied traditions, is often associated with familiar songs that everyone knows by heart, such as When You Come to Visit from St. Nicholas, also known titled 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. But behind the bright and cheerful appearance of this song, there is a mysterious and questionable origin. On December 23, 1823, a version of the poem was first published on the front page of the Sentinel, a New York newspaper. Sent anonymously to the newspaper, the poem quickly attracted public attention. With lines that resonate with wonder and magic, it has quickly become an indispensable part of the holiday season. However, the origin of this poem is an unsolvable puzzle. In the years after the poem was published, many people came forward and claimed that they were the true author of the song. These claims have made identifying the author increasingly complicated. Literary experts, despite their efforts to find the truth, still cannot determine exactly who wrote these enchanting lines of poetry. Each statement carries with it doubts and unresolved mysteries. The obscurity lasted for many years, until in 1837, Clemens Clark Moore, a famous poet and scholar, officially recognized himself as the author of the poem. This statement not only caused a stir in the literary world, but also clarified part of the mystery that the public and researchers have been facing for a long time. Moore has claimed that it was he who wrote those beautiful and iconic verses, but the story of anonymity and opposing statements has always existed in literary history. The poem On a Visit from St. Nicholas has become an indispensable part of the Christmas season, but the mystery of its origin, with its questionable events and contradictory statements, has created a layer of horror and mystery surrounds this work. Although the identity of the author was finally clarified, the story of the poem's mysterious years continues to evoke reflection and curiosity about the truth that has not yet been completely revealed. The Christmas season is not only a time of joy and hope, but also a place that holds scary secrets and unsolved stories. These mysteries remind us that, while we enjoy the festive spirit, there may be unexplainable things lurking in the shadows. Be careful, and always remember, not every story ends with a happy ending. Some are still hanging in the air, waiting for the Christmas lights to unravel.